We talked about Salesforce. Obviously, you left Salesforce eventually and you joined Square. Obviously, I guess you probably left because Naeem and Sarah and them also went over to Square. So I get that part, right? But when you joined Square, Salesforce was already this very successful company. Square was, I think, around 200 employees or something when you joined, right?
It's like 120, I think, if I remember correctly, including the barista.
Okay, so they did have good baristas there, but okay, 120, so even smaller, right? And then so this question is more around kind of how you thought about risk because you were leaving a relatively large and successful company that was maybe worth like, I don't know, $25 billion or whatever to a much smaller startup like Square, which is, I think at the time was worth what, 3 billion maybe? I don't know if they
No, it
were.
was yeah, it was Series C or D, if I remember. So, I mean, this was before.
It was probably less than three because I want to say it was three when I joined, and you.
Yeah, I think it was like 1.9, if I remember. One
Yeah.
nine, one
Okay.
nine or 750. It's like 750, 1.9, then to something else. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was definitely a huge risk.
Yeah, because I was like, I feel like for you at the time as a new dad, like I always hear about people in Silicon Valley, like, oh, after they have a family, then they want to go to FANG companies. And that's where, like, it's all safe and you make good money and, but it's less risk. But you went
Yeah,
like the other direction, right?
yeah.
How did you kind of think about that, I guess?
I think, yeah, I mean, leaving Salesforce was a tough decision. It was like yeah, I was still growing very fast. I was at a director level, making really good money, cash and equity. Like it was not, and
And
we just
we
had
all
a
know the cash escrow was no good.
yeah, well, so we just I mean, we just had our son, mortgage, and I think the toughest part was, I had such good, camaraderie with my team, you know, my partners on the business side. Many of them were like, like kind of the chosen ones by Mark Benioff. Some of these really, influential executives were I was their finance business partner.
So you were
I
you were
respect
like you
them.
were in a good spot
Yeah,
basically.
I was in a very good spot, and to kind of give up on that to go to the unknown was a big risk. And I took a total pay cut, probably more than 50%, which in hindsight was pretty crazy at the time. But I guess in a way, sometimes like luck is something that you shouldn't be chasing luck. But at the same time, if you don't put yourself in a position where things could happen, like I think, so this is why I think when people say, oh, Mike, you've chosen really good winners, whether it's Salesforce to, Square, or now they XYZ now, but to DoorDash. But like luck was a huge factor, right? Timing and being in the right place at the right time, connecting with the right people that can help you open doors.
Yeah.
I think, but I was always been somewhat of a risk taker, not just in, career, but, I always felt like I never believed that your financial ability to make, money, I never believed it was in linear. Like, I think that's a trap that I think a lot of people get into, because I see people in their early 20s, mid 20s, willing to burn bridges over $10,000 or $20,000. It's just like
Yeah.
I think sometimes you get, you know, trapped in this sense that I have to make X more money. Like I have to have progress. Like progress only happens, upward trajectory. But the calculus I had to do was like, okay, if I'm gonna take a big pay cut, for sure. Like I think I took a 70% pay cut on like just on cash alone, right? So, but I negotiated a lot of equity,
Yeah.
as much equity I can negotiate. And I'm like, at the time, Square was this, Silicon Valley darling with Jack Dorsey at the helm. It was something new, it was innovative, and the team was incredibly impressive. And I'm like, okay. I told my wife at the time, hey, if this thing crashes and burns, I think I'm okay with the learning that I would have gotten. out of this, and I'll be ready for the next opportunity. And I had a very supportive wife that supported my decision, right? So,
Clearly.
and it was there was, again, like, we didn't go public, or I didn't get liquidity until a good 3.5, 4 years later. But it was a huge risk in the sense that the company could not. It was possibility that it did not have an exit, right? It could have. There's a lot of companies that get a lot of the fanfare early, and then market conditions aren't right. There's new competition, and it never ends up being something, right? You had a decent exit with Microsoft purchasing uh, GitHub, right? GitHub.
Yeah, GitHub.
So and now I think you would be the first one to say, hey, there was stars lined up for you know a for luck to be impacted, right? So
I mean, yeah, and even then, like, I left a one really good thing for another really good thing, right? Because, like, Square obviously ended up doing really, really well too. So it's like, who I don't really know if I came out, winning that trade or whatever. I've never actually done the math, and nor does it really matter. I guess I'm sure when you were taking that 70% haircut though, and having gone through banking, you were like doing the math on like, okay, I negotiated this much equity. What would have to happen for this to be like the right bet? How confident were you that, like, was it like 50-50, like 80-20, or like, like,
yeah, I mean, I call it a pseudo Monte Carlo simulation. I looked at all the potential outcomes. Risk weighted it. I did the finance, like, professionals, rational,
yeah,
scenario analysis, right?
yeah.
So I wouldn't say 50-50. I would definitely say it was less of a success chance, but I thought if it does happen, it's not that linear movement, right? It's exponential.
You thought it had less than a 50-50 chance of making it.
Yep, yep.
Wow, and you still took it. Okay. You are very not risk averse, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, for a finance guy, yeah. I mean, I think when it came to like key business decisions, I think I was probably a bit more conservative. But even the decisions I did push for, I would say relative to other finance, I was pretty aggressive.
Dude, even hiring the guy that we were talking about earlier, that was also a risky. That was also, I would say,
One
right?
one hire can't sink a boat. I mean, yeah, one bad hire could, I guess, do a lot of damage, but it wasn't the toxic type
Yeah.
that I was taking a risk with.
I mean, money aside, because we most have been focusing on, like, the financial upside of this move of going to Square. I'm sure part of your evaluation was also the people, because I assume, I don't know, I'm just filling in the gaps in between myself, but I assume like Sarah and Naeem had already gone, and then they were trying to recruit you over there, and obviously you already knew them from your time at Salesforce, and you obviously enjoy working with them. How big of a factor was that, I guess, and how important do you think something like that is when you're deciding to whether or not to make a certain move in your career? Like, how important is the people aspect, I guess?
I would sometimes think about, obviously, you do all the found basics, right? The money and all of that, the potential outcome of equity, all of that. But if you're not going to be around to invest into those things, then it makes it kind of moot, right? So, and I think I was just like I think I'm very thankful and humble that other people wanted me there. And obviously they had a choice of who they can go recruit. So I think I owe the people who entrusted that I would be able to do a good job for them. So I felt more humble that I was being kind of tagged to say, hey,
Yeah.
wanna come over. And so I think and I think when I went through interviews, and a lot of times when you go through interviews as early in your career, you mostly focus on how you're trying to present yourself to the company, to the people that are hiring. But I think as you get older, you are now also interviewing to see what kind of people they are. So like I always try to like look for like, okay, do you know what am I gonna be getting when I come to work every day and I interact with these people? Am I gonna be growing? Am I going to enjoy my time with this interviewer? And I think that's probably one of the key things I learned, that it's really important to, make sure that there's that connection. And
Yeah.
it's hard. It's 35, 30-minute, 45, an hour interview. Obviously, as more senior you spend more time with the other folks that, other executives that you'll be dealing with. But, I think I was never good at kind of hiding my feelings if I, didn't like someone. I didn't really have a good poker face about that, and probably to my detriment to my career. But
That's why you're so big on authenticity.
yeah, and I think I don't want to go through life or even at work being kind of pretending to
Yeah.
enjoy somebody's company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life's too short to fake your feelings. So I always look for, if I like this person, do I respect this person? And I think a lot of times I trusted my gut. When I met Tony at DoorDash, I knew I liked him. I knew I liked him. So it was like one of those things, like, yeah, it can be very demanding, but I felt comfortable enough where I feel like I can say what I was feeling directly to him without, like being offended, or like I always felt like, okay, somebody, if I'm really trying to do what's right, is this person going to know where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So I think, to just reiterate, I think when you accept a job, that should be your number one criteria.
When you say
Not the money, not the position title, is how you fit in that space with, your boss. I think I read an article once, 90% of the reason why somebody leaves a job is for because of their manager. So I think it should be your number one criteria in whether or not you're accepting a job.
which is how well do you think you're going to get along with your boss? Yeah, I mean, I 1,000%. I mean, I've experienced both sides of that, right? Where I got along really well with my boss, like you, for example, versus when I didn't get along with my boss at all. And I would just say that. And even when I didn't get along with my boss, like you have an ego or I have an ego. And I think I'm like, in that instance, like, I thought I was hot shit or I thought I knew more than she did. And I didn't even think she was qualified to be my boss. But guess what? Like, you are going to lose that fight 10 out of 10 times
Yeah.
because they're your boss. Like, it's impossible for you to be successful in whatever position you're in if your boss is not like your advocate, or if your boss just doesn't like you for whatever reason, whether they're justified or not, right? And then the flip side is also true, is like if you do get along with your boss and your boss does like you and they value you, and when they go to the next place they want to bring you along with them, then that is worth a lot because you're going to get all the opportunities to shine and do well, and they're like they want you to be successful. And
Yeah, I think it's important to make sure that that, hey, there's A, B, and C, one, two, three, that things I could learn from this person. Because if I think you don't get just paid with money or stock, you get paid with knowledge. And if there aren't people around you that's going to teach you new things, like you should be trying to like learn. And this isn't just from upward management or your boss, right? You need smart people that's at your peer level or even your directs. I think there's been many times where I felt like, oh, I learned something like really valuable from the team, and many of that came from people that worked for me, right? So I think it's always around having an attitude of like, I'm gonna get paid one way or another, right? And that's the story I told my wife, is like, I may not get paid dollar wise, I may get paid experience wise.